All right, let's talk about the CELPIP reading test. For a lot of people, it's the most stressful part of the whole exam. But what if I told you there's a way to completely change the game? Today, we're going to do just that. We're going to transform that test day panic into a solid point-scoring strategy.
Does this sound familiar? You're staring at a wall of text, the clock is just ticking away, and that cold feeling of panic starts to creep in because you're not even halfway through the questions. Look, if that's you, you are definitely not alone. And the problem, well, it's probably not what you think it is.
And this quote from Oluyemisi Soetan just hits the nail on the head. This is the big secret we're unpacking today. The CELPIP reading test isn't really about how many big words you know. It's a game. And like any game, if you want to win, you have to know the rules and you have to have a killer strategy.
So before we can build that winning strategy, we have to get one thing straight. What does the test actually want from you? Understanding this is, no joke, a complete game changer.
Here it is, the most important rule of the game. Every single question is worth exactly 1 point. It doesn't matter if it's super easy or incredibly hard. 1 point. You get 0 bonus points for reading carefully or for deeply understanding the text. Your only job, your entire mission, is to find the right answer as fast as you can. You know, everything we learned in school, read every word, absorb the information, think deeply, you can just throw that right out the window for this test. That old way is way too slow and it'll kill your score. The new mindset, you're not a student reading a book. You are a point scorer, an answer hunter. That's it. So how do we actually make this switch? Well, it all starts by changing how you look at the test. This next idea is going to fundamentally change how you approach every single reading passage from now on. I want you to literally stop thinking of this as a reading test. From now on, it's a treasure hunt. The passage isn't some boring article you have to understand. It's the map. And the questions? They're the clues that tell you exactly where the treasure, the correct answer, is buried. Your job is to follow those clues, find the X on the map, and dig up the points. Fast. Okay, every good treasure hunter needs the right set of tools. And for the CELPIP reading section, your toolkit is made up of 3 very different reading speeds. Knowing which tool to use and when to use it, well, that's the whole secret. First up, we've got skimming. This is your lightning fast speed. We're talking 60, maybe 90 seconds, max. The only goal here is to get a super quick general idea of what the passage is about. It's like you're just gliding over the surface, getting a feel for the layout of the map. Next up is scanning. This is going to be your best friend, the tool you use 90% of the time. Once you've read a question, you switch into this laser-focused search mode. Think of it like hitting Control F on your computer. Your eyes are just looking for one specific word or idea. Everything else on the page is just background noise. And finally, there's close reading. Now, this is the special tool, the one you use very, very rarely. You only pull this out for those 1 or 2 really tricky questions where you have to slow down and analyze a single sentence to figure out a tough detail. Seriously, if you use this too much, you're going to run out of time. So here's the golden rule, and you gotta remember this. You skim every passage just once at the very beginning. You scan over and over again for almost every question. And you close read only when you absolutely have no other choice. If you get this balance right, you'll be amazed at how much time you have left. All right, let's really dig into that first step because it's so important. Skimming isn't just about reading fast. It's a system for creating a mental map of the passage so you know where to hunt for the answers later on. And the most critical part of this system? The time limit. You get 90 seconds. That's it. When you're practicing, I want you to actually set a timer. This pressure forces you to stay on the surface and stops you from falling into that old trap of actually reading the passage. So this system has 4 dead simple steps. 1. Read the title. Obvious, right? 2. Read only the first sentence of each paragraph. That tells you what each section is about. 3. Just let your eyes float over the text and notice any standout words like names, dates, numbers, anything in bold. And 4, this is the hardest part, when that 90 seconds is up, you stop. You have to move on. Okay, so you've got your mental map. Now it's time to actually get those points. This is where we learn how to use the clues, the questions, to find that buried treasure. This technique is so simple but so powerful. You always read the question first. Then, using that mental map you just made, you predict which paragraph probably has the answer. And then you go straight to that one spot and scan only that section. It is so much faster than just reading the whole thing over and over.
Now, let's talk about one of the biggest traps that CLPIP loves to set. Beginners will look for the exact same words from the text in the answer options. But the test makers are tricky. They almost always use synonyms. So if the passage says something was costly, you can bet the correct answer is going to use the word expensive. You have to match the meaning, not the exact words. And speaking of traps, you need to know the 4 main types of wrong answers they use to trick you. First, there's the word match trap. It uses a key word from the passage but says the wrong thing about it. Second, the true but irrelevant answer. Yeah, it's a true fact from the text, but it doesn't actually answer the question they asked. Third is the almost right answer, and these are sneaky. The text says some people, but the answer says most people. See? So close, but wrong. And finally, the assumption, an answer that seems logical but isn't actually stated anywhere in the text. All right, let's put all these pieces together now. We're going to combine the mindset, the tools, and the techniques into a full game plan that will give you total control and confidence when you walk into that test. You know, the foundation of any good game plan is time management. Here's a guide for about how many minutes you should spend on each of the 4 reading parts. And check out the 30-second rule. If you can't find an answer after scanning for 30 seconds, just make your best guess and move on. Seriously, it's not worth wasting time you could use to get 3 other easy points. Let's quickly go over the old bad habits you need to break right now. Stop reading everything word for word. Stop getting stuck on questions that are too hard. The fix for pretty much every mistake is to just trust the system. Skim first, scan for the answer, and always keep moving forward. And I really want you to let this last thought sink in, because it's a huge confidence booster. Your final score is not a measure of how good your English is. It's a measure of how good your method is. A test taker with a smart strategy will beat an advanced English speaker with no strategy every single time. So that big, scary CLP reading section, it doesn't have to be a nightmare anymore. You now have the right mindset, you've got the tools, and you have a solid plan. All you have to do is practice this system, trust it, and you will walk into that test feeling ready, in control, and totally prepared to score. You've absolutely got this.